This is the tutorial video on how to use Tabletop Simulator's version, our Tabletop Simulator version of Veiled Fate. This is not an official video by any means. This is just so Austin does not have to teach the game every time we have a new playtester. So this will only be used for playtesting purposes and should not be used to learn the game as a whole. But let's dive in. You are playing as a god who has sired a demigod. That is these 9 characters that you see on the board in front of you. You are going to get a card that tells you you are one of those characters. So if you got this card, you're going to keep it a secret, and you are going to be playing as this guy. However, you are able to control all the different demigods. Your goal is to get your demigod the most points, which is this track around the outside of the board, called Renown, at the end of the game. So if purple was in the lead at the end of the game, you would win, and you would reveal your card then. All right, so let's talk about how you get Renown and then also the rules of the game. So I'm going to put purple away, but for all purposes for playing this game, we are going to be pulling for purple. Okay, so you want to get Renown to win? To get Renown, you're going to send demigods on quests. On your turn, you get 2 actions. An action is going to be moving one location. So I can move from the city, which is a location, to a quest region. This one is called Canyons. I can move there as an action. I could move down here as an action. Basically, as long as you're moving one space, that's considered an action. All right, so I'm going to move from the city with my first action. Remember, you get 2 actions per turn. I'm going to move and put him on this quest here. All right, now let's talk about this quest. I'm going to make it big so you can see it. If you are new to Tabletop Simulator, if you are on Windows, you're going to press Alt while hovering over something. If you are on Mac, you're going to press Option, and it pulls it up nice and big so you can see what is on this quest. On the left side there, we have, whoa, can't move my mouse. You have that Omega symbol at the top left there next to the circle in the middle there. That means +1 renown. The right side, that eyeball with a lightning bolt coming out of it, means smite. We'll talk about what a smite is later. Under that, you see the scythe. That means -1 renown. Below the omega on the left, you see an omega with the 2 in it. That means +2 renown. All right, so these different sides at the top, you see one has feathers and one has scorpions. That correlates to fate cards. So I just drew 5 fate cards, and you can now see that I have scorpions and feathers in my hand, and sometimes you'll get a double of one of them. So when I place Agamar, who's this purple guy, on this quest, anytime you place someone on the quest, you're going to vote. So what am I voting for? I'm either voting for feathers or scorpions. So when I vote, I'm either voting for the feathers side of this card to happen or the scorpion side of this card to happen. So I am Agamar, so I want Agamar to win, so I want Agamar to get a point. So I am going to vote with a feather. Then, as my second action, I am going to move Pentha here, the red character, onto the second slot. Gonna turn Agamar a little bit, so... Oh gosh, this is fun. There we go. I'm gonna put Pentha here, and I'm gonna vote with feathers again. So, I have now voted with 2 feathers for Pentha to get 2 points and Agamar to get 1 point. However, my turn is now over, and it is player 2's turn. Player 2 is blue. Blue is going to come up here onto this quest, and they are going to vote with double scorpions. Then they're going to put yellow up here as their second action, and they're going to vote with a single scorpion. All right, so we now know that there are 2 feathers in there and 3 scorpions in there. So if we were to reveal this right now, scorpions would win, and we would resolve the right side of the card. But at the top middle of this card, you see a outline of a person with a 2 in it. That means we are going to add 2 more cards to this quest. Player 2, who just finished the quest, has to choose 2 additional players to add a card to the quest. So, player 2 is going to ask player 3 and player 4 to add cards. And player 3 is Pentha, and he wants Pentha to get 2 points, so he added a feather. Player 4 doesn't care about any of these characters, but throws in a scorpion because he has more scorpion in his hand. So we're going to shuffle, and this will be no surprise to you. There will be more scorpions in this pile, but not by a lot. Three to four. So we resolve the right side of this card because that is the side with the scorpions. All right, so we resolve top to bottom. So Agamar is going to get smited. Remember we said we'd talk about smite? Smite means that you send them to the abyss. We'll talk about how to get out of that in a second. Pentha would lose a point, but Pentha's already at 0, so Pentha's not going to go down any, so she just gets off the quest. Blue is going to gain 2 points. And yellow is going to gain 1 point. Alright, they're going to come off the quest. And this will get discarded. And that is the end of that quest. Now, different quests have different limitations on them. You'll see that this quest has a red circle in the middle. That means only Pentha can be placed there. There are some certain situations where you can place other characters there, but we'll get those in a second. The other type of limits is classes. You'll see this owl and this leopard in the middle here. Different characters have different classes. You can see the owl on this character here. So that means that she can go on the owl slot. Same with Namari, the green guy here has a leopard. He can go in the leopard spot. But you cannot put Klar on either of those spots because he has a bull. So you have to be on the lookout. He has to be on a blank spot or a bull spot. All right. Now, Klar can go on one of the open spots. No problem. On the quest we finished first, and on this quest, there's an order that you have to place them on, following the arrows. Gotta love tabletop sim. Great. Such a good tutorial, Austin. All right. So you would have to fill that one that direction. Make sense? Finally, there are some quests that are called duels. This one, if you put 2 characters there, in either case, they're going to get a positive renown, but whichever side wins, so let's say Scorpions won this quest, orange would get the renown and pink would get nothing. If Feathers won, pink would get the renown and orange would get nothing. All right, so that is quest limitations. Let's talk about the pools in the abyss real fast. You can see on these two locations, there's an arrow pointing one direction. That means you can only go that direction when you move. So you have to go from the abyss to the pools, and you have to go from the pools to the city. When you do that, there are also some other icons here. When you pull someone out of the abyss to the pools, you draw a new fate card. So I would get to draw a fate card for doing that. When you pull someone from the pools to the city, you get to refresh a fate card. So I could discard a fate card and then draw a new one. It has to be done in that order. We drew a fun card that is important to tell you about. If this came up in a vote, it means add 2 random cards from the draw pile. Oh boy, that's a fun situation. So those are the 2 from the first one. Those are the 2 from the second one. That's exactly how you would do that. All right, skipping over that. Let's talk about god powers, and then we will talk about cities and ages. God powers, you're going to have this handy reference card that tells you all of the different powers that you can do. Remember I said that you can ignore the color spaces and you can ignore the class spaces in certain situations? Those situations are portals and transfiguration. Portals, you may pay 3 fate cards. You see the 3 icon there on the left? That means I would have to pay 3 fate cards in order to portal someone. But I can portal them anywhere. So I could portal Agamar onto this quest, onto this quest, even though he is a bull and that quest is an owl. I would vote with double feathers there because that would give him 2 points. If you want, you can portal people off of quests too. Normally you can't move people off of quests until the quest is done, but you can if you portal. You can move them from anywhere to anywhere, basically. Transfiguration has to be done before the quest is done, so there has to be an open slot on the quest, but I can pay 3 cards and switch the location of 2 people on the same quest. That can be really helpful if you know the quest is leaning one direction or the other. That's called transfiguration. You also ignore requirements. So, for instance, there's now a leopard on an owl. If you transfigure, you ignore requirements. Smiting is the way you get people off of quests. So I could pay 2 cards from my hand, and just like that quest that we talked about earlier, it would send, I could choose anyone that's anyone and anywhere and send them to Hades. Oh, not Hades, the Abyss. I'm going to get laughed at for that. Hades is what we originally called it. It's called the Abyss. Omniscience is a tricky one. So let's say that this quest was standing exactly that way. I'm going to grab another card and put it here. If I were to Omniscience, I would discard 2 cards to pay for it. Then I would add an extra card from the Fate deck. I would shuffle it, and then I would right-click and search it. Wow, all feathers. That tells me that green is going to win this, and I might have suspected someone else of being green, and now I know they're green because of how heavy that is leaning feathers. And since I'm Agamar, I'm purple. I might want to get him off of that quest, or this would be a great time to transfigure. If I paid 3 cards and then transfigured, I'd be really confident that this would go feathers. The final one is influence. So let's say these guys were off this quest. Let's say this is how the board looked at the beginning of my turn. I could put orange here and vote. So I would vote, and then if I wanted to really influence this quest, because it was really important to me, I could discard a card to activate the influence god power, because it has the 1 on the red fate icon there on the left, and then I could add an extra vote from my hand. That is how god powers work. Each god power costs an action. So on your turn, you have 2 actions. You can either choose to move a demi and then vote if you place them on a quest. That's all the same action. Or you can choose to use a god power. I can use 2 god powers, I can use 2 moves, or I can even just use one of my moves and pass. I could pass my turn to the next person using only 1 move. If I don't use any moves, I hard pass. There are other ways that you hard pass as well. I could choose to take 1 move and hard pass. I could run out of cards and hard pass. I could not gain or lose a card and hard pass. Those are the rules on hard passing. Hard passing means I am not going to play another turn. I'm not going to take another action until this age or round is over. An age ends when all of the quests have been finished or all of the players have hard passed. Once again, you can choose to hard pass if you don't want to play any more cards, or you must hard pass if you run out of cards, you do not gain or lose a card on your turn, or if you do not take any actions on your turn. The first player each age to hard pass takes the first player token. Only the first player that does it. So if you're player 4 and you hard pass your first turn, no one else is hard passed, you take the player token, the first player token. That can be helpful for certain cards. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so once again, the age ends when either all the quests have been completed or all the players hard pass. And then you are going to resolve an age card. I'm going to choose a different one. All right, so Chaos. This is read at the beginning of each age. Wow, that's not what we want. Okay, so this is read at the beginning of each age. The first player is the person that reads it. And at the end of the age, once all the quests are gone, you're going to get a chance to vote, starting with the left of the first player. And you get to vote as many cards as you want into this center portion here. It can be no cards, you can abstain, or you can vote all the cards that you have left. If Feathers wins, you resolve what's on the Feather side. If Scorpions wins, you resolve what's on the Scorpion side. In this case, let's say Feathers won, you would switch the demis at 1 and 3 renown. Since there is no demi at 3 renown, yellow would just jump up to 3. If Scorpions had won, you would switch the demis at 2 and 4 renown, so blue would jump up there. All right. Talk about scoring a little bit and how the order in which you score. Like I said at the beginning, you score quests from top to bottom. So let's do a little example of how we would score a quest. All right, so we were purple. Let's say Feathers won this. So pink would get a point. Pink is going to get a point and go to the left of yellow. On this space, they are not tied. Pink is in first place because it is closer to the next tier of renown. Same thing with purple. Purple's going to get 2 points. Purple is going to go to the left of, or in this case, closer to 3 than blue is. If pink or yellow got a point, they would jump up and be there. Remember, you're scoring from the top down of the card. That matters, because it matters in the order in which you would give people things. So if pink got a point, pink would now be in first place. However, let's say Scorpions happen here on the age card. When you're doing age cards, you score from first to last place. So since all 4 of these demis are at 2 points and we're switching the demis at 2 and 4 renown, we would start with pink, then go to yellow, then go to purple, then go to blue. Suddenly blue is in first place. Was in last place on that tracker too, but now is in first place. That's how you score things. At the end of the game, at the end of 3 ages, if this is how the score looked, blue would win. All right, so it's important to pay attention to that. All right, finally, we're going to talk about city cards. So when you move a demi back to the city, so this quest is done, we scored it. Say on my turn, I wanted to move 2 demis back to the city. Every time we move a demi back to the city, we cover up a space on this card called an altar card. You always start the game with an altar card. Sometimes there's going to be a different type of card later in the game. To give you an example, this one has some text on it, and I'll talk about that in a second. But whenever you move a demi back to the city, this moves 1 track. All right, I just covered up the same icon that we saw down here in the abyss, the +1 icon. That tells me that I get to draw a fate card. All right. This next one has a coin on it, and you'll see that there's a coin on a lot of different quests as well. So let's talk about what that is. We have this fun coin here. Feathers is going to be the white left side, and Scorpions is going to be the black right side. We're going to flip this. And since we got Scorpions, that would be a smite. So if green had moved back, if I had moved green back, and then we covered this up, I would have flipped that, I got Scorpions, and green would get smited. Let's say the board looks like this, and this quest is done. And I moved yellow back to the city. Yellow would cover up this coin. We would flip. And it's Scorpions again, which would be a negative point because we have the scythe on that side, the omega on that side. So yellow would lose a point. Whenever you lose a point, you also go to the top of the rung. So let's say blue lost a point. Blue would be above yellow in that situation. All right. So these cards work in the same way. They have the track on them that you move. However, they also have an additional rule that's in effect as long as this card is up. You get 1 city card per age. So this wouldn't normally come up after we just finished that card. But since I'm showing it to you, this card has a rule set that says, while this card is active, demis may not travel directly from one quest region to another. That means I could not move from here to here like I normally can. I would have to come back to the city and then move here, which would be 2 of my actions instead of 1. So it's a really crappy card. So once this is done, it gets discarded, and then you'd be done. There would not be a city card for the rest of that age. All right? Then when the new age comes up, you would flip a new card. Same thing with when you do a new age. You're going to flip a new age card. So these, you'll only use one of each of these piles, one from each of these piles. You shuffle it and then draw one to do that. All right. Once the third age is over and scored, everyone reveals their cards and the winner is declared. If the person in the demi in first place is no one, then you just go to the next player character. When you are done an age, the demis stay in the regions they're in. All right, so let's say we just finished an age. The board should be cleared of vote cards and quest cards. And then starting with the first player, which is now me because I hard passed first that turn, I get to place a quest. Then it would go to player 2 to place a quest, and then player 3, player 4. You're going to place the number of quests, the same number as players you have, unless you have 2 players or more than 6 players. If you have 2 players, you always place 3 quests. If you have 6 players, you're going to place 6 quests, but anything above that, 7 and 8, you also place 6 quests. Instead of using the coin, as it's a little bit fiddly in Tabletop Simulator, some playtesters prefer using the dice. Same thing, you're going to highlight it and then press R, and that will flip it a bunch of times for you. You can use the coin. The coin is what will be in the final game. It's just not as good as a piece for Tabletop Simulator. And then when you have a card in your hand, when you want to go vote with it, make sure you press F to flip it over, because you don't want to show everyone what you are voting. Sure, I'm missing some rules, but this will at least be a good primer to watch before we get started. And whoever is hosting the game will have played before and can keep things on track. This is not supposed to be an exhaustive rule set, just enough to get you a taste for the game before you jump in and play with other people. All right, thanks for watching, and just contact me on Discord. I'm at Austin, in parentheses, Arcaros, if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.